just here to have a good time. Keep it happy, keep it positive. And if any VAs have issues or like your author doesn't show up, I'm here to kind of fill in and give information where we need to. So, yeah, let's have some fun and read some cool first pages.
Awesome.
All right. Well, first up on the list tonight, I was voluntold. I'm reading first. Simona, hello.
Hello.
Oh, look at that. Simona's in the same room as A.E. Tell us about Long Night and Longwood.
It's real weird.
It's like we're married or something.
It's bizarre.
What?
Well, long story short is this originated out of the Ukraine war. So, yeah, something good came out of that show. I actually wrote it for a fundraiser that I was doing when the war started. And the friend who ended up getting this particular bid really wanted a Western. So this is the one and only Western that I've ever done. And it is also probably the one work that has the most kielbasa jokes that I've ever put into something. So it has that two of those distinctions. It's kind of a long, short story, I guess, rather than a novella. It's about 15,000 words, and it's going to be part of the Spellwing Summer of Love anthology, which I presume is coming out this summer.
I think that's the plan.
Yeah.
Along with some audio, I believe, a companion audio book. We're very excited to show off all the talent on the Spellwings roster.
Awesome.
So you can't buy it yet, but if you love this, follow my wife, Simona Niles. She'll be in the chat later, or you can find her through me, and stay tuned.
Long Night in Longwood by Simona Niles. The town of Longwood was just a podunk municipality not far from the Mexican border, practically a stone's throw from San Diego, too insignificant to have made it to any proper regional map. But to John the Swan Long and Jacob J.C. Chase, it was merely the 100th of such settlements on their endless road trip in search of a man who seemed now, years past the beginning of their journey, more phantom than person, more figment of memory than even a tangible name. "This is it," J.C. said, puffing on his cigarillo while he cast a dubious look at the shoddy wooden sign that announced their arrival in Longwood. "If he's here, he's dead to me. There's no more ground left to cover in this God-forsaken country." John wasn't going to point out that his travel companion had said the same thing about the last 10 towns they've crossed on this trip. He cast a look south in the direction of the border, wondering if they'd need to start honing up on their Spanish if this too had proven to be an abortive endeavor. "You'd think after so long, even Wayne Young would get tired of running and would settle down," J.C. went on, plumes of smoke escaping his nostrils like a disgruntled dragon. John fixed his cutter, pulling in more tightly over his eyes to block out the beating rays of the afternoon sun. "I'll swear," J.C. spat into the dusty road, "this is the last place we're looking. And then I'm going back to Chicago and marrying the first girl my mother throws at me. I don't give the smallest anymore." John allowed a brief hum to escape him because he figured, pointing out that one of the reasons J.C. had gone off with him on this fruitless search in the first place was to avoid having to marry what seemed to be an endless parade of eligible young ladies Mrs. Chase seemed intent on foisting upon him, his obvious lack of interest notwithstanding. "Come on, then," J.C. gave the sides of his horse a brisk kick. Let's find the one watering hole in this place." Silently, John followed his friend down what passed for a main thoroughfare in this town. Longwood was a place doggedly resistant to any kind of charm. The buildings lacked congruence in a way that made John wonder if it had been done on purpose. Just because you were the armpit of California Didn't mean you had to forego taste entirely. They'd made it past the local apothecary when they were stopped in the middle of the road by an unfolding kerfuffle. A young woman was standing over the fallen body of what looked like a teenage kid, engaged in a shouting match with a drunkard who was waving a revolver in the air like a man seeing triple and giving half a shit if he blew anyone's head off with it. Fuck's sake. Started being British again. Fuck's sake, JC swore, pulling up on the reins of his horse before he ran over anyone standing or already lying in the middle of the road. Just because your daddy is Mr. Moneybags don't give you the right to go around knocking down anyone who gets in your way, 'cause the fancy strikes you, the young woman was shouting, apparently unintimidated by the armed and belligerent drunkard. You don't own the sidewalk, and I sure as hell don't owe you the damn courtesy. Stay out of this, you middling minx, or I'll have both you and your brother thrown out down the mining shaft. Coward like you always needs someone else to do his dirty business, ain't that the truth? The young woman spat out at the lumbering brute. The lumbering brute in question needed to use both his hands to point his shaken revolver directly at the woman's face. But before he even had a chance to squint, JC unleashed his bullwhip, knocking the gun out of the man's hand. John was already out of his saddle, and just as the drunkard turned in shock in his direction, quietly laid the man out with a single punch to his jaw. All right.
Yeah.
So Maya, welcome. You are a twofer here tonight. You're both the author and one of the narrators on this audiobook project.
You have the wrong name.
Yes.
The
What is
producer.
your narrator name?
Devin Slate.
So, my Rusch, Devin Slate, welcome to the panel. First, my Rusch, introduce us to your book. Then Devin Slate, introduce us to the book project you're working on.
So what I'll do first is I'll read what the synopsis of the series is, and then go into it. Anyway, so Air Desires is a book of 15 that I had created a long time ago. I'm rewriting all 15 of them. So this one is, so the Air Desire series is a sizzling mix of erotica, mythology, and the supernatural where magic and desire collide in unexpected ways. Each story explores steamy romance, both hetero and gay, between humans and outer-worldly beings, weaving passion, adventure, and playful heat into worlds filled with gods, demons, enchanted creatures, fun, flirtatious, and thrilling. The series celebrates love, lust, and the power of fantastical. So that's what the entire of the series is. So Decisions is the very first rewrite book of it. So it's about Dane and Olivia. They are part of a quadruplets. So there's Dane, Olivia, Jacob, and Demon. And this particular one, the way I originally wrote it is where it was third person. This is first person, switch in point of view. So I am playing Olivia. I'm also playing a small character known as Brooke. I have Andrew, what is his name? Andrew Midnight is doing 8 of the characters. 3 of them are very, what's the word? Vital. That's the word I'm looking for. James Wolfram is doing 8 characters. A few of his are very vital as well. Luulu Soul, who is in this lovely thing. She has some small lines, but they're still important. And then Joe Ryder, who I don't think is in the chat. So, so that's the breakdown of it. This the entire production is a cast production and should be released in June sometime, depending on it. We're slowly working on it. So, Olivia, my siblings and I come bolting into the house for dinner. Let's rewind. My name is Olivia Bowen. Is this my real name? Well, the first part is. The second part, I don't know. Dixie and Darren, our adopted parents, adopted us about 20 years ago. Well, they adopted 4 fluffy things they thought were puppies, only to learn later that we are shifters. Wolf shifters, to be exact. They had walked into the living room to find 4 naked babies instead of 4 pups. Before our adoption, my siblings and I didn't know anything about our origins or who our biological parents were. Hungry, Darren chuckles, sitting down. Sorry, we were running back from the forest we practice in, I say with a smile. I grab the bowl of mashed potatoes and put a scoop on my plate. Still nothing? Dixie asks. Nope, it's harder than it looks, Jacob says, frustrated. Right, let me introduce my brothers. Side note, we're quadruplets. Jacob is the oldest of us, while I'm the youngest. Then you have second youngest, Dane, and then there's Demon. I know, weird names. The secrecy doesn't help either. A human almost caught us. Like, seriously, can't we just tell them to shove it and move along? Dane growls, glaring at us. We can't, Dane. You know it's a supernatural law. Demon grumbles. But it's stupid, he hisses back. And we follow the rules. Jacob snaps, tired of the same conversation. Jacob, calm down, I say softly, placing my hand on his shoulder. I'm trying, but it doesn't help when Dane is saying the same stupid things, he retorts. Dane means well, I sigh. Whatever, Dane snaps, standing up from the dining table and heading out the front door. And where are you going? Jacob asks, glaring at Dane. I'm not saying that out loud. Out, he bellows, slamming the door behind him. End scene.
All right. Welcome. Tell us about A Little Longer and yourself.
I'm going to preface this with I've never spoken live before, so this is about as nervous as releasing a book at this point. So this is my debut, and it released in February, so it's not been out long. It's still a baby, and it's mainly centered around grief, mental health struggles, but also looks at the light side of things, finding friendship, finding love, and just looking for light in the darkest of places with a little sprinkle of British banter in there.
All right. Yes. All right. TravusVO reading A Little Longer by K.L. Bauer. Prologue. It's my fault. Every choice, every action, everything that led up to this moment is my burden to bear. People are pushing against me, their elbows digging into whatever they can to gain a better viewpoint of the body lying on the floor, the face recognizable yet so unfamiliar at the same time. My heart is hammering in my chest, screaming at me to move, to throw myself on the floor and cling to them, never to let go, to protect them, always. The crowd's unforgiving pushing and shoving draws me closer and closer, forcing me to acknowledge the cold, lifeless reality awaiting. Tears free fall as my voice escapes me. I can't look away. I can't waste a single second of looking at my love. The hushed whispers all around confirm that this could be the last time I'll be able to. Not breathing. Unresponsive. Before my mind has a chance to catch up, I crash to the floor as my hands reach out to press down on the cold chest in front of me. Push, push, push. Don't leave me. Push, push, push. Just wake up. Push, push, push. I fucking love you. Don't do this to me. Push, push, push. I'm sorry. Push. How long have compressions been going? A deep voice breaks through the buzz of whispering onlookers. I don't know. We've tried to get him to stop, but he won't. He just keeps going. Push, push, push. Okay, everyone. Make some space, please.
Vibes. Tell us about it. Tell us about you. Tell us about your book.
I'm David. I'm 31 years old. I'm a theater major. I've been writing for probably about 4 or 5 years. I started with writing plays and short stories. Yeah. Coded, I'll kind of give you the elevator pitch. In a future nation, a conniving group of elitists implant a camera in every citizen's eye, watching every move. In the shadows, a quick-witted hacker seeks vengeance for the loss of her parents. And when a friend is unalived protecting her, she learns those responsible are the elitists in control.
An island on the Pacific Ocean. One can only feel true darkness after witnessing true devastation, like seeing their parents shot and their home burn in flames. As I stand in the mud, lightning streaks above, providing the only light breaking through the night sky. Heavy rain violently pelts my body, leaving no way for me to hide. Thunder cracks as I wait with the other captives. A massive structure stands before us, tall and jagged, unlike anything I've seen before. The rain makes it almost impossible to properly map out the details. We stand in a single-file line, with holocausts singeing our wrists any time we move our hands in a way that seems like an escape. Waves mimic my heartbeat, thumping against my chest as they crash against the island's edges, sending a heavy mist through the air. The roar of rushing water drowns out the cries of my neighboring prisoners. Salt water against my lips tastes like the Pacific Ocean. Through the periodic flashes above, glimpses of the darkness and the isolated island we stand on flare, provoking a sense of loneliness. "Do you think we'll be okay?" the girl beside me asks. Her voice is dry, weak and shallow. Sunken eyes show a lack of sleep, and defeated brows appear weaker than she sounds. "I don't know," I whisper. End scene.
I also submitted the first page of my submission to this Spellwing Summer anthology, Summer of Love. So this was a story that I'd written quite a bit ago. I was inspired by a old medieval illuminated text of a giant snail with many, many tongues that, was eating people's goats. And I decided it needed to be a romantasy. So when Spellwings announced that they were going to do this anthology, I brought it out and did quite a bit of rewrites to it because I realized it was about 15 years old. And I'm excited to finally share it with the world this summer.
So, Brothers in Arms, Chapter 1. In the dim light of the new moon, anyone watching the hillside might have glanced past the form of the Firbolg, who slowly crept along the edge of the brush. His blue-gray skin was as stone-like as the earth his kind was attuned to, and despite his impressive size, his movements were almost completely silent. Now and then, Bax paused, reaching out to touch something in the dark on the bark of a tree or the surface of a rock, bringing his fingers to his nose to sniff. Then he continued on. This was not a task to Rusch. The beast he was tracking had already taken many warriors, older and more experienced than he, who had chased after it in haste. It was a difficult patience to maintain when he knew what was at stake. But if the beast was abroad tonight, getting himself captured certainly wouldn't help his sister, Angelia. Reaching the crest of the ridge, Bax looked down into the gully below. His heart stopped. The beast was abroad and had found prey. Despite the danger, for that split second, Bax was dazzled by light and perfection. Even in the dim light of the traveler's fire, the man was more glorious than any living being Bax had ever seen, shining with such golden beauty that his heart restarted at a gallop. Even though he'd only heard of them in the elders' campfire tales, he instantly recognized the being he was looking at. Fionn She, the shining host, awesome, awful, and awe-inspiring. The undying lords of Fairy. Then adrenaline took over in a rush, and Bax leapt forward without a second thought. The otherworldly traveler and his horse were wrapped tight in the beast's serpentine grasp. The horse brayed, fighting and struggling to get free, kicking towards the beast's massive body. The man, his lower half pinned to his horse's flanks by the coils of the beast, clung desperately to the trunk of a young oak tree that was bending from the force of the beast's pull as it tried to drag them away. Immediately Bax raced for them, forcing the stream at the bottom of the gully. As he ran, he drew his two short silver-edged swords from their sheaths at his back. He swung at the coil of the beast again and again in a desperate attempt to get it to release the man. Puerile slime splattered against him from the force of his blows. He heard a distant blood-curdling scream, and the beast shuddered, its coils loosening enough for the travel to pull himself free. Suddenly, something slammed into his shins, cold and wet, wrapping tight and squeezing hard. Another beast. Desperately, he slashed at it, but it gave a mighty yank, pulling him off his feet. Bax's back connected hard with the ground, knocking the wind out of him as the beast started to drag him down the gully. Fighting for breath, he dropped his swords to frantically grab at the rocks and brush as he passed. There had to be something to anchor him, anything to keep it from dragging him to its lair like it had so many others of his tribe. For a second, his hands found purchase on a stone ledge. Hope leapt into his throat, only to be torn away as the beast yanked him free. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm him as the beast had, a tingle raced over his skin, accompanied by a chanting yell. He caught a whiff of the sharp, sweet scent of birch, and then everything around him was light. A rushing warmth surrounded him, followed by an arch of flame that streamed over his head and into the trunk of the beast. In the distance, the terrible, blood-curdling scream came more loudly. The beast thrashed, fleeing him against the gully wall. Bax's head connected with the stone in a flash of pain, and then everything went dark.
Martha stood in the darkening street, her once vibrant blue eyes now devoid of emotion. She had no dreams left. She could no longer smile and barely raise her head to meet anyone's gaze. When men walked by, they looked at her with contempt, and even the lowest among them kept their distance. Did she think she could charm them with her pale cheeks, marked by telltale red spots in her convulsive cough? Another spasm tore through her chest and she doubled over, coughing violently. Once the spasm subsided, she wiped the flecks of blood from her chin and stood there shivering from the pain. How long could she keep going on like this? Would anyone care when she died? If she fell down now, would anyone even notice an unwanted creature of the streets? Oliver certainly wouldn't, but then Oliver only cared about himself and his filthy business. But what about Elsie? The woman who had found Martha crying at the water's edge all those months ago. The night Georgie had breathed his last. Would she care when Martha breathed her last? Martha clearly remembered the first time she encountered the woman. It was dark, and she thought she was alone. Finally drumming up the courage to walk into the water, she kissed the lifeless bundle in her arms and stepped away from the shore. A woman cautiously approached, asking what she was doing. Martha jumped, startled by the other presence. "Leave me alone." The woman took a step back and held her hands out, palms raised. "It's all right. I ain't trying to do nothing. You just look right upset." She glanced at the bundle cradled in Martha's arms. "What's in the shawl?" Martha pressed the bundle to her chest and took a step closer to the water. "Nothing. Leave me alone." Elsie shrugged. "Then if it's nothing, what you gotta hide?" Martha steeled herself, wondering if the woman was going to try to take her little boy from her. She took another step towards the water, the waves gently lapping over her worn boots. "Get out of the water. You'll only catch a cold." "I said, leave me alone." Elsie remained silent for a few moments. A ship in the distance announced its presence by blasting its horn. New limeys were being tanned for a bit. Martha didn't care. Georgie was dead, and she was going to join him.
And Joe, you're reading Lucy. I can't see my screen. No,
I am reading Monster Bar
Alexis
by Alexis Matthews. So I am doing all the speaking today because Alexis is shy and I'm not. And we've worked together a couple of times now, so we know each other pretty well. So I will introduce them first. Alexis is a pen name, and they are a small author from Missouri. When they're not writing, they like to spend time with their wife, and they have a duck farm. So lots of ducks, which is amazing. And Alexis is a exclusively spicy author, I would say. In my experience, they haven't written anything that isn't very, very spicy. So the fact that we've got a vaguely clean first page is a miracle, but we do. So there we go. It's going to be awesome. So the book that I'm reading first page from today, Monster Bar, is actually the first book that Joe Ryder ever read. So it's kind of special. It's kind of important. Yeah, this is the first one I ever did. So we're going to go into it. It's called Monster Bar, and it is about a girl who works in a bar for monsters. Now here we go. Chapter 1. Val poured another round of shots for the centaurs sitting at the table. The bar was packed again, even for a Friday night. Monsters of all shapes and sizes walked around the new, hottest bar in town, made specifically for creatures. Val was one of the only humans working the bar that night, so tips would be in great supply. For some reason, when the liquor hit, these beasts couldn't keep their eyes, or their appendages, off her. Most waitresses hated being groped while trying to do their job, but she loved it. The centaurs scraped their hooves against the wood floor as they yelled and downed their liquor before slamming the shot glasses down. The bigger one shook his head as the burning liquid went down his throat.
So we're just getting I'm pulling up some quick information about Amelia, who wasn't able to join us. And Amelia Lark writes contemporary romance and emotional stories about love that transforms us, the kind that challenges, reshapes, and quietly changes the course of our lives. This is Amelia's debut novel about courage, growth, and the small decisions that redefine who we become. Blending romance with women's fiction, her story explores love as a journey, not just a feeling.
Every street has a rhythm. For some, it's the sound of morning traffic or the distant hum of a city that never sleeps. For me, the rhythm of my youth was the sound of footsteps on asphalt. Exactly 21 paces to a midpoint, and 21 more to a blue door. I began writing 42 steps because I wanted to explore a truth that isn't often found in fairy tales, that love is rarely a straight line. In our lives, we are often forced to choose between the path our heart wants and the path our reality demands. We make pivots. We sacrifice dreams of medicine for careers in technology. We cross oceans, not just to find new lives, but sometimes to outrun the ghosts of old ones. This book is for anyone who has ever lived in the diagonal. It is for those who grew up in the shadow of tradition and the light of a flickering street lamp. Most of all, it's a tribute to the safe harbors in our lives. Those people who knew us before the world told us who to be. The characters of Maya and Leo are born from the silent observations of a lifetime. Their story is a reminder that even when we let go of someone's hand, we carry the imprint of their grip forever. Thank you for opening this book and stepping onto my street. I hope that as you walk these chapters, you find a piece of your own story hidden somewhere in the 42 steps. Amelia Lark.
The author has jumped in their time machine back to 1800s Europe and America for an action-packed yarn, including privateers, escaped slaves, sea battles, and a rapacious king. Buckle up, saddle up, and strap yourself in for a rollicking ride through Regency times. England, 1811. Thomas Crabbe has just entered the ailing George III's Navy as a young cadet. After a running battle with the American privateer ship, an injury confines him to the galley as the ship's cook. Skipping a little bit ahead. Can a cat-loving cook save Europe from impending war? Will the unlikeliest of friendships endure and stand the test of time?
Crabbe stood on the burning deck. The sea seethed and boiled around him with the debris of burning ships and the detritus of the battle. He could still hear the muffled boom of the 9 guns from the lead ship chasing away the Americans. As the smoke cleared, he could make out Lieutenant Marshall on the quarterdeck, blood running down his left cheek, shouting orders to the crew to trim the sails and heave to. Her several hundred crew duly brought around His Majesty's frigate Donegal. This maneuver exposed the Donegal to one of the enemy ships, and it fired. But 2 shots fell short. the other two sailing over the top of her masts. Midshipman Blake, not much older than Crabbe, did a jig upon the deck, hallooing and hollering for all he was worth, making crude gestures at the attacking ship. Crabbe felt absolute relief at the departure of the enemy ships. Their first skirmish had resulted in a precipitous retreat by the enemy. He watched the retreating stern and went to assist with unloading the ship's cannon. Thomas's first duties were assisting gunner leader. During the first few weeks on the Donegal, Thomas had witnessed a distressing incident that made him wary of firearms for the remainder of his life. While a few crew were stacking muskets in the storeroom, some of the powder stored there exploded, killing them outright. Thomas saw one of the men catapulted out of the hold and thrown against one of the bulkheads, leaving an imprint of himself upon it. Thomas Crabbe, able seaman, had recently joined His Majesty's Navy at the ripe age of 15. His late father had been a soldier, having fought against Bonaparte, and had instilled a sense of duty in his only child. Having kissed his weeping mother goodbye, Thomas had spent a night and half a day bumping about in the Royal Mail coach from Ipswich to London, and connected with another mail coach to Southampton. He had spent some weeks at a naval training base before embarking on a skiff, joining his first third-rate warship.
All right, so Lucy is the award-winning author of erotic romance novels, Stately Pleasures, named in the top 5 of clitorati.co.uk's 100 modern erotic classics. Sorry, it cut off. That you've never heard of. And is a Zahn bestseller, Eyes Wide Open, and The Persecution of the Wolves, Hiding in Plain Sight, and a bunch of other ones. She has over 170 publications to her name. So,
all right, so this is the prologue for Polar Night. Amber Lowe tilted her head back to enjoy the sun's rays on her face as she walked arm in arm with her mother down the pedestrianized high street of their pretty Derbyshire market town. It was a busy Saturday afternoon in early September, and the two women had been shopping for cards and presents for Amber's father, Nigel, and her brother, David, who both had birthdays in October. It had been a successful trip, punctuated by a leisurely and very enjoyable lunch stop in their favorite cafe, and now they were headed home. Amber let out a contented sigh. Her mother, Elaine, tensed, squeezing Amber's arm into her side as she did so. "You all right, love?" She righted her head and looked to her mother with a smile. "I'm fine, Mum. Just enjoying the warm sun on my face, soaking up some vitamin D. Who knows how much more of this glorious weather we'll get? It's almost October, remember?" "How could I forget?" Elaine replied, lifting the hand carrying the shopping bags and giving it a jiggle before rolling her eyes. "The curse of the two most important men in your life having birthdays within days of each other. Inconsiderate of them, if you ask me." Amber raised her eyebrows. "I don't mean to be indelicate, Mum, but while you had nothing whatsoever to do with Dad's birthday, you are at least 50% responsible for when David's is." "I resent that comment," Elaine said.